Hi, this video is on adding question categories into your course. Now, you may say, why do I need question categories? Well, let me tell you. I'm going to go into my content bank and show you my original question category. In my original question category in this course has 1,153 questions in it. And if I was to try to find any questions inside this horrible mess, you can see that it's pages and pages and pages of questions. In fact, it's 12 pages of questions, and finding a question inside a content bank that has over 1,000 questions is insane. So after my question bank got out of control, I just decided to start adding and using categories. So how do you add categories and what do you do it for? First of all, you do it to organize your questions into nice groups. In fact, in my hardware class, you can see that my questions are broken down much more. In fact, chapter 3 has 70 questions, and it also has a subcategory that has lessons and quizzes. In chapter 4, I started doing it even more. It has 57 questions in it, but then inside chapter 4, I've got 14 questions over section 4.1, 9 questions under 4.2, 9 questions under 4.3. You get the idea. When I look at chapter 4 questions, I see all the subcategories questions as well, unless I tell it I don't want to see the questions in the subcategory. For instance, if I'm looking for chapter 4 questions and I uncheck that and I hit apply filters, I only have 57 questions to look at in there. However, if I say I also want to see subcategory questions, then I've got 2 different pages of questions in that one. So I can break them down more and more and more as I go, and I do that by creating categories. So you go into more and question bank. Then instead of looking at questions, you go to categories. And I would highly recommend that before you start a section or start using quiz questions in a section, that you create a category for the section that you're in. You do that by just hitting add category. So I can add a category in the top under the name of the course, or I can add it under any of the categories I've already made. So if I wanted to make a category called laptops, I could. And then if I wanted to add a category inside of laptops, I could make one for that specific model of laptop. And I could do the same thing so that my questions, as I look down here in the category, and I can move this up and down. So I move this up, I move it and its subcategories up in my list. But then I can look at all laptop questions or just one specifying to a specific model in the same way that in my actual course, when I go to my categories, it's by chapter, and then inside the chapter, I can do the subsections inside that chapter. So when I go to pull a quiz for 4.1, I'm only looking at those. But when I'm looking at a quiz or end of chapter exam, I'm looking at all of chapter 4, which includes this section and all the subsections that are underneath it. So that's why we want to add categories. Again, it's very easy. You just go to more, question bank, then you go from questions to categories, and you simply click add category. When you do that, again, you can make it under the top, or you can add it under any one of the categories that you have already set up. So that's how you add a category. And then when we add questions, or when we import questions, we will add them or import them into one of the categories we've already made.